try to give a brief overview about what we have earned in our lifetime, how we are able to distribute it when we are in the present time, and also when we are not there. So welcome. So estate planning, so it can happen during our lifetime, as I said, and after our lifetime. So let us take us to some of them. Wills is something which we understand very easily and does by an individual. Trust in a much bigger form, a larger asset form. Nomination, which we always do today. So when we remember that when we are filling the mutual fund forms, have all the nominees in play. When we are doing the FDs, have the nomination in play. So anything and everything which we do, have those in ready. So this is again a part of an estate planning. A gift deed, we love our loved ones, and during our lifetime we want to give away our asset, comes in play. This is very interesting. How many of you know about this Married Women's Property Act? Anyone? How many lawyers, chartered accountants in this room right now? You see? Good. So your company. There are more, but they are shy to raise their hands. So when you take an insurance policy, this is again a learning which will happen during our journey. At the time of taking a policy, if you as a male, at the time, I'm saying right at the time of filling a form and taking the policy, if you have say male, say that my spouse will get the corpus in my absence, that is where the Married Women's Property Act comes in play. There is no lien, no charge, nothing can happen. But one thing, it cannot be done post facto. It has to be done at that time. And not many people or many of the folks who interact with actually know about this. I myself faced a challenge when I wanted to do it because no one knew about it. So this is basically when you're, so let's say when you're taking let's say a term cover of 1 crore or much more than that, and you have a nominee, let's say your spouse as a nominee. So you can ensure that that corpus would only go to your spouse and no one else. By creating, we are creating a trust. By default, this is a trust. By the very act of it. So, right. No, they don't. See, the thing is that you have to fill up 3 more forms, and it delays the sale process.
Let me ask you this. After this came into play,
right?
I had taken the insurance policy before that.
Right.
Term plan before that. Then the act came in. I approached Aviva also.
No, the act was always there. This act wasn't always. If it's saying 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, 15 years, it's always there. Only that we have been coming to know about this only now more frequently.
On the Aviva term plan policy, they online they don't show this.
You have to ask for it.
I asked for it.
Right.
And somehow or the other, now I will work to get this done.
No, but thing is that it has to happen before the policy is issued.
There must be a way now.
There is no way. Zero way. So if at the time of taking a policy, you're not able to get it done, you cannot get it done. You got to get a fresh policy. That's how the whole, when you say why, the law is like that. So in income tax, you say why 30%, the law is like that.
I have a document with them that they did not show it to me, and I asked for it and they still did not do it.
Absolutely. Not be done later. So that's unfortunately, that's why. So that's why, take the time to take a decision, but when you make a decision, and then you have the HUF. So HUF can be done, this is the Hindu honored family, can be done on your own or through a will. What does a will mean? You want to say? Fantastic, no? It's like a Twitter, 140 words. You made it much smaller. Cheers. A legally enforceable declaration of how a person wishes his or assets to be distributed after her death.
Can we have it in digital form?
When you say digital, what does it mean? Right,
your assets or whatever.
right.
You also have a lot of email IDs, passwords, banking onlines.
Right.
Even those can be digitally put into a will so
Right.
that the banks will go and disclose it to your
Right.
person who will be
Right.
taking the
Right.
authority after
Right.
you do. So can that be done? Who does that?
No, but unfortunately today everything has to be written black and white. So,
You can't write black and white a password of your banking online.
no, so what happens in this case is that, let's look at the banking, you are the single
Not only
person.
bank, so it's just a question
Anything.
irrelevant to the today's discussion, but
Any-
what is it that you have your mail IDs,
Right,
you have your access passwords,
Right.
you have your banking passwords,
right,
all that can be put in your will, wherein all your digital signatures can be passed over to your person who has the will after.
If you take it, let's take it part by part. If you talk about email IDs, Gmail has a different policy as compared to Yahoo, as compared to someone else. You cannot have, so in Gmail you can today right now set up an inactive account and get it done. So each of them, Yahoo does not, so Yahoo, one of them, does not give it, for the next person to access it, typically. So if you can check that out, that's one. Banking, typically, if you are a single holder or a joint holder, and if the passwords and user IDs are given to you specifically, then in the absence of you, that cannot be used. Your user ID and password cannot be used. So what you're saying is that you're keeping it aside and mentioning it only so that, the person to whom you trust, it could be a spouse or anyone else in the family, also the family, knows how it can be operated for the convenience. So look from that perspective. So we have a book which we'll share with you, but it's from that perspective. It's made by a person of a sound mind and who is not a minor, so less than 18, cannot make a will. One more important thing which we need to consider is that it's only what you own or what you have self-earned can be part of a will. Anything by inheritance, it cannot be part of the will. Inheritance which you have received anything, then as per the Succession Act, whomsoever it is part of it, they also have a share in that particular piece. In absence of a will, respect to succession laws will go on. So Hindus, Christians, Muslims, Parsis all have separate individual acts. We'll touch upon that in the coming slides. So when you make a will, there are multiple folks involved. So the person who makes a will is called as a testator. But before that, to make a will, you need an estate. So estate basically is sum of all assets as reduced by the liabilities. So simple balance sheet, all your assets, all your liabilities, and the net, the residual what happens is the corpus for which you can actually make a will. The person making the will is a testator. So who is the beneficiary or legatee? The person who inherits the will is the legatee. This is the most important role besides the testator and legatee, executor. So in the absence of the testator, the executor ensures that the asset is distributed in the way and the manner in which the testator has to get it done. It's a thankless job. At some point of time, if the executor says, I don't want to execute the will, then it goes to an administrator. That means it again increases the cost, and it's one will be long drawn. So it's very important that you choose a right executor. To ensure that the will gets executed fast, one of the beneficiaries can also be an executor. It all depends upon how the relationship is there within the family of the testator.
Who's the executor?
Absolutely. So so a testator says who will be the executor of the will. You can have multiple executors. You can also mention that in the will, if in the absence of executor A, executor B can happen. You can have multiple executors. So typically, if someone who is younger to you is recommended, so that you typically we assume that the younger ones will not predecease us. So that's how one should have that. So and before having the executor in the will, one should actually ask the executor or the person who proposed him to the executor whether he will be part of, he would like to execute the will. So that's very important. So choosing that executor is also very important. So administrator we touched upon. So if the executor is not there, or if a disease is, then you have an administrator. So you can also have a minor as a beneficiary, and you can appoint a guardian for that. Codicil. So we'll touch codicil a little later, but it's basically alteration to the will. So will, if you make today, you can actually, make an agreement, or you can add to that will through a separate manner, which is called a codicil. Now, if you want to write a will today, and do you think you need a green paper, red paper, stamp paper to write a will? You can simply write, I, Brijesh Damodaran, Hindu, aged XYZ, resident of so and so, hereby make my last will, dated so and so. And if I want to make it short and sweet, I hereby bequeath all my assets to my wife. Simple. So it's as simple as that. But having said that, in large families, you want to give certain assets to X, certain assets to Y, certain assets to Z. Please mention why you're doing that. Why I'm giving X to Y. There could be a history behind that. So let's say I have multiple children, and I'm supporting one of my child much longer term, but during making of the will, I don't want him to, in the will, I want to give him less. Please mention why I want to give him less. So what makes a valid will? A beneficiary has to be mentioned with a list of movable and immovable assets. So list all your movable assets, if possible also put photographs of what you want to put in. It will be signed by the testator and attested by 2 witnesses. Why 2? Why sign? And each page by the testator. One thing which one can do is that when you sign the will, each page next to the last written letter is where one typically should sign the will, not anywhere. Because today with technology, other things, one can easily take some of the pages off. So do that thing. Why 2 witnesses? Do you think a witness has to be a doctor or a lawyer? It can be anyone. But it is preferable that you get a certificate of a doctor and attach alongside the will that on this date I was of sound mind. A doctor can be a family doctor. A witness can be anyone, but typically a witness cannot be a beneficiary. And one more thing which we say is that when you are actually making a will and the testator is actually signing the will and the witness is there, ensure that only the testator and the witness is there. So if you are marking a will, so in this room I will have only the testator and the witnesses. So let's say my spouse comes in and say no. At some point of time in the future, if he wants to mess up, this can be one thing which can go wrong. So with this will, all other wills, earlier wills are redundant. The intention must be that executive will. It happens only after the death. Before that, if you want to give anything, it's a gift date and which is non-revocable. So please don't. It's my take. Enjoy as long as you live. So it can be revoked. Okay, this is interesting. Did you want the will to be registered? Is it important to register a will? Then why would you register a will? You find a lot of things in the media saying that will register karo, acha hota hai. See, will can only be challenged if one wants to. Registration gives an additional edge which says that okay, this will was registered, was there, one copy was there with the sub-division or magistrate office, one copy is here. But that no one, if someone challenges a will, it can still be challenged. So it's only that behavioral, we give ourselves, ठीक है, register किया तो अच्छा लगता है, मतलब secure है ना. When you die, so this is where Succession Act comes into play. Without making a will, then it comes in play. So this happens applicable to Hindus, Buddhists, Jains and Sikhs. Interesting. This is for the Christians. Muslims, basically both Shias and Sunnis have different laws. In fact, in Muslim, you can't make a will. You can make a will only for 1/3 of your asset. So let me not delve more into that. So that's a different area altogether. Parsis have their own laws. This is interesting. A privileged will. So all the others are unprivileged. When a privileged will typically means, let's say, you are fighting at the border and the war is declared. So the soldier can actually make an oral will in the presence of two witnesses, which subsequently can be noted down by the two witnesses or the executor. That's it. He may not even need a signature of his. But this has to be only at wartime. So if a skirmish is happening outside, it doesn't happen. But this is a facility which is given for soldiers during wartime. Any cues? By the way, how many of you have made a will? Cheers to that. Cheers to that. Please make a will. No, बोलता कि पहले पैसा कमाने दो फिर मैं विल बनाऊंगा. नहीं, लेकिन उसके लिए तो एक आ गया ना कि आप लिखो I Nishit Chandra, son of so and so, Hindu, making a will. It's important. So it's as simple as that. Make a one-page will. Keep it signed. You come to us, we'll charge, but Huh? But each religion has its own intricacies. That's why. And next thing, if you ask me, क्यों law बोलता है? सब कुछ law बोलता है. Law is again gone by different things. As I said, for Muslims, you can only make a will for 1/3 of your assets. So it's different. Shias is different, Sunnis is different. Parsis have their own thing. So at some point of time, I believe, a male could get 2x what could be willed to a daughter. So to a son. Sorry, to a daughter. So
if you have a Muslim husband and a Hindu wife,
then the Indian Succession Act comes in play.
It's just a piece of paper.
With
So,
you? So see, before you make a will, ensure that the executor knows you have made a will. That's very important. If beneficiaries may know or may not know, that is your call, because there is no right answer to that. It depends upon how the whole thing is there, and the witnesses are there. So the will has been made. So you can keep it, in safe custody with you, or you can locker, or digital scan. But make a will. Make 2 copies. Will come to you. No. Make multiple copies, and let's say each of the copies sign with a blue signature. So there are multiple, so let me call it a duplicate will, but that's how one can go ahead.
So in order to agree with the will, you need an original copy?
So yeah, absolutely. One copy has to be original.
Photocopy will not work. Not be treated in court of law.
Then there is no will, it's interstate.
You.
Right.
So in that case, if that will is to be then
Fantastic.
executed,
I'll answer that
how
point.
do you deal with that?
See, typically what we also recommend and suggest is that once you make a will and you have the witnesses there, so let's say 3 months, 6 months down the line, you make an affidavit of each of the witnesses saying that I, Brijesh Damodaran so and so has been a witness of this on this day, and along with who was there as co-witness, and that, do an affidavit. So typically it is on a 500 rupees stamp paper, do that. But let's say you make only 100 rupees stamp paper, then what you can do is that you can put affix additional 400 rupees, and that's how the will,
So it can be actually evidenced.
Absolutely. So so typically if you go to any website, you don't find this information, because then you have to go, ठीक है, Sundar Sasta Tikau, ठीक है, it works somewhere, because here this is your asset. You need to know कि anything can happen. So you need to determine कि what all things can happen and how I can deal with it. So that's how one can do this.
I have a question to this. Is this some case where it is a joint property for which which has to be a part of the will?
Right.
So how is that taken care of? One. And second, if the
let me handle one thing. So
no, it's related. So I'll just state it. You take it one at a time. Second is if the husband and wife, they are following different religion. So, how would that be handled? So joint property in case of both, when both the parents are, both the people involved are in the same religion, also when they are following different religion.
Okay, so let me handle the first part first. The first part is we make a will. In that case, succession act comes in place. So for each of the, let's say there are number of, the will has been, there are number of brothers, co-brothers, sons and daughters in that in that case on the property, if a will is there, then you can actually mention what you want to give. In the absence of a will, since the person has come from what, if it's a Hindu, the Hindu Succession Act will come in play. And then the second generation, so for the person who is has a mixed marriage, that part of the property, when that person goes away, that has to, in that you have the Indian Succession Act coming in play. So these are two different things. So two different acts will come in play, which will come in play at two different point of time. Have I answered? Right.
So would then the Muslim rules still apply? No.
Because
So
so
you
in
have
that
to
case,
state your religion in the will
so
itself.
typically in that case you are having you're not having religious marriage. You are having a marriage by the court of law.
See, you have your religion by birth,
Right.
which is not something that you have chosen.
Right.
Subsequently, you choose a different religion,
Right.
and then once you have adapted to that religion, thereafter that act should really work.
No, in
So
thereafter,
that is where-
no, that act will work. Let's say you have married a different way and you're married in a court, not by the, let's say not by the Christian, not by the Nikah-nama, not by the Hindu
No,
act,
you may
right?
have done a Hindu and a Muslim marriage, but to do a Muslim marriage, you need to do a conversion.
You need to do
and if that
conversion.
conversion has been done,
Then done.
then
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 done.
done.
Then done.
Right?
See,
so
if-
then would the Hindu, because you've done a Hindu marriage as well, and you have a certificate from a temple as well as you have a certificate from a Qazi.
So-
Those things happen actually.
those things do happen, and those things are happening more frequently here. So what I pray that the laws get updated very soon in the next show, because then see the thing is that it makes the lawyer's life much easier, because you have Hindu Succession Act coming in play, you have the Indian Succession Act coming in play, and then it can go for merry-go-round. So I'll not like to give a definitive answer to that. The answer lies in how the interpretation comes in play and how it goes on. So let's talk briefly about Hindu Succession Act. So in the absence of a will, and if you're a Hindu, this comes in play in Succession Act. Then there are two classes of heirs in that, class 1 and class 2. Any idea why class 1 and class 2 heirs? So, and for a Hindu male and a Hindu female, there are two different, the laws are different. So there are typically around 16 or 17 different relationships mentioned, which is again clubbed into 6 blocks in both the cases. I'll come to that. But before that, let me ask you one thing. So Hindu male dies without making a will. So he leaves behind a widow, his mother, his father, his sons and daughters. So the question is, does all of them get part of the son's will? So you are saying mother and the children gets, father will not get, right? Parents will get. That's interesting. So your good name, sir? Who? Bridge. So you are right. Father does not get. Father goes into class 2. So let's have some fun here. So you got a mother, widow, daughter, son. So they get equally. Then it follows, son, grandson, granddaughters and stuff, and other relations. Then in the absence of these 16 relations, then comes the class 2, where you have got the father. Now if you ask me why, this is a law. So I don't have an answer to that. Why is law? So let's talk about what happens when a Hindu female dies without making a will. all three get, very unfair. In the other case, the father lost out. Then second, the heirs of the husband. Then the mother and the father of the Hindu female, and then the heirs of the father. Then the heirs of the mother. No, it's first. So if you say first, second, third, fourth, fifth. So first goes to, then let's say the sons and the daughters and husbands are alive, then all three get equal share. Then remaining people don't come at all. But it is again own property, not inherited property. Inherited property means it has to go as per the inheritance again.
How about the married daughter?
So daughter is daughter. So if you see, it doesn't talk about married daughter. It says daughter. Huh. So let's make it simple, The law makes it complex, unfortunately. That's the. So बोलता है ना कि lawyer को भी कुछ कमाना चाहिए. So what happens to property acquired from husband? So in that case, in the absence of that, it goes to the heirs of husband. In the absence of sons and daughters, not to the father and mother of the Hindu female, but to the heirs in the absence of sons and daughters. Very interesting. Again, property acquired from father or mother, what happens? So basically the idea was that you give a brief background, a brief update about what is wills, how are the nuances of it, and how we should work around it. Let me now run through much faster. Types of wills. Holographic wills written by hand. If you have got a nice handwriting, please write by hand. And one more thing, holographic wills in US, you don't need a witness if you do holographic will. But in India you need. Conditional will, अगर ये होगा तो वो होगा, तो यहाँ भी बन सकते हैं. लेकिन US में क्या है, यहाँ पे the thing is that the estate duty is not there, which was that's the reason why we have got all kinds of nonsense coming in. You've got a joint will. So when two persons, see, joint wills people make, but unfortunately what happens is that, the joint will can get executed only when both are not there. And this is the easiest will. Two testators, I bequeath all to you, you bequeath all to me. Simple. But again, one has to follow what one. I love it. Tax planning tool. Right.
Only restricted to your share of ownership.
See, that's again an interesting part, and it's again interpreted in a different way. So let's say you've got a joint bank account or a joint property and it's a 50-50 hai. So typically the thought process is that the other 50 becomes the property, 100% property of the. There is one school of thought which talks about, there is.
Okay.
There is. The other part says that no, that becomes, that 150%, half is the joint holders, the other half devolves if a will is not made as per the Succession Act.
No, but if a will is made, then you can actually deal with that 50%, which is your direct.
Absolutely.
So there is no restriction on that.
No.
And there is no devolvement.
There is no devolvement. So will actually mentions black and white. So make it very simple. No if but, make it very simple. That's how the whole process is. So will can be also a good tax planning tool which one can do it. One can create an HUF. So let's say you're in the 60s or 70s and you're a Hindu and you want to get an asset for your son. So you can create an HUF from a will. This is no, now it is getting different. Now even your spouse can become the karta. So in your absence,
You don't really need the son to establish an HUF. Has that happened or is it?
Happen.
Okay, thanks.
See, fortunately, some rules are getting updated. Fortunately, so that's nice. If you look at why bequest to married children, grandchildren is a tax planning tool, because today any gift to a minor becomes the income earned becomes your income under Clubbing of Income Tax Act. So if you make in the will, if you give any bequest to the minor, and any income from the minor is not taxed at your hand. Same thing to your spouse. So today if you want to give a gift to your spouse or your granddaughter, the income from that is taxable at your end and not at their end. So will is again a good tool. You can create a trust, and you can also create one discretionary trust which can be taxed at individual tax rates subject to 4 conditions. So those conditions are still mentioned there. So this is again one of the things which you can do. Last slide, I believe. No template, one pager. You can use anything and just make a will, but do sign it. Handwritten, simple English, not mandatory. This is what residual clause means. Today, 21st November 2015, I have so many assets. You can just add one more clause saying that any assets after this day, addition to the assets goes to the person concerned. So that takes care of that part. But remember, it gets again distributed in the same way, if I mentioned earlier. So that you have to take care. I didn't touch on probate specifically because this is a very longish time. So probate typically happens, with the World Wide Court. You got any property, say in Kolkata or in Chennai or in Mumbai, you need to get it probated. So that is your assets, and that typically the fees are 75,000 rupees odd, and plus the lawyer fees. So if you ask me why, that is how the law is. No other answer. So if you have any property in Mumbai, and then it will go for a probate. Very clear. So it goes as per your religion, the Hindu Succession Act. So if you have seen that, so then class 1, class 2, class 3, then go. If someone wants to mess around, then challenge.
How long is the will valid after the death of the person who's written the will?
The will is valid till what you have mentioned in that gets executed. So if you have
If it's not executed for 10 years after his death, it means it is still valid,
absolutely,
right?
yeah. Yeah.
Null and void, that's okay.
Yeah, and the new will need not be registered
Registered.
that way. Any cues?